Okay, hello, I am live. It's during the day. I'm doing this for a change, and the light is kind of weird. So it is what it is, I guess. To figure out another setup sometime. But welcome to my channel. My name is Rochelle, and this is my channel, Inviting Possibilities. Today is day 21 of my 30-day challenge. Coming on here and pulling cards, telling stories, talking about stuff that I feel is important for many of us. Maybe not. They're different paths and timelines, but if you're here, then something in here is meant for you. And today I intend to read a soul story that I just wrote today. I have talked about addiction in some of my videos, prior videos. This last year has been quite difficult for a lot of people in a number of ways. And there's the obvious one, the pandemic that has kind of been the underlying thing that has kept many of us in a place of feeling isolated and alone, and many people are experiencing upheaval, with employment and relationships, and it's been really tough. And I also have had quite an intense year. Because of so many of the things that I just mentioned. And I found myself, eventually I fell into quite a deep hole of my own personal addictions. And it was the worst that I have ever experienced in my life since I have sort of first begun this, shall we say, journey of falling into addictions and then trying to come out of them and falling back in again. And this by far was the deepest hole and the hardest for me. Both while I was in it and coming out of it. So when I was in it, I was aware of what was happening. And yet I just didn't have the ability to get myself out of it. And I decided while I was in it that I wanted to write a soul story about someone struggling with addiction. But the thing about my addiction was I couldn't focus on much beyond just maintaining my life and maintaining the addiction. And so this idea has sat unrealized for, well, I first intended to write it down back in November. And here we are in February, a little over, what is that, 4 months later? 3 months later. Math. I'm happy to say that as of today, I am over 5 weeks sober. I've had many wake-up calls, but I had a pretty big one that just really shook me to the core and made me realize that I did not like how I was showing up in the world. I did not like how I was showing up for myself, which essentially I was not showing up for myself. I was not showing up for my son, yeah, it just became really clear that I needed to make a change, or something really catastrophic was going to happen. So today I came home early from work. I have not been feeling well. Been dealing with various struggles in the wake of sort of healing and coming out of my addiction, and ended up deciding to write the soul story. And I know that a lot of people are still in the midst of their struggle. I know several personally, and we're all in this place of just being so tired of just having been in this what feels like this never-ending pandemic. It's gone on so long, and we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and yet it still feels so far away. Like, will we ever get back to some sense of normalcy? And it'll never be normal like it was before, but somehow, just getting back to being able to feel comfortable physically connecting with the people around us, and traveling, and doing the things that we enjoy, that give us pleasure and enjoy. So with that, I am going to read my story. And in case you haven't heard any of my other stories, I'll keep that here. I use a tarot deck to write my stories. I randomly choose cards and write the story based on the images on the cards. And I always choose my theme first. So what I'm going to do is read the story and show the cards as I read, so you have an idea of where the story came from. All right. So here we go. Sorry, I guess that's all right. Once upon a time, there was a woman struggling with addiction. The things she was addicted to made her feel good and gave her a sense of peace and well-being. The world around her seemed to be a more beautiful place, and she felt a sense of safety and comfort. But each time the high wore off, she became acutely aware of just how awful she actually felt. She was overwhelmed by all the things she needed to do to maintain her life. Everything felt like a burden and much too complex to manage. Depression and a deep sense of melancholy would descend upon her, leaving her exhausted and wishing for a reprieve. Then one day, she realized that in order to heal, she needed to break this insidious cycle. And just like that, she stopped choosing to indulge in her addictions. Immediately, a flood of emotions she had been attempting to hold back rushed in. It was a bit painful at first, but it didn't take long for her to understand that the movement of these emotions had a cleansing effect, much like being sprayed down by a power washer. She regained her ability to think and see clearly. She was again able to express herself and found a renewed desire to communicate with the people around her. Her personal power returned, which enabled her to show up more authentically in her life. The most profound part of her transformation, however, was the expansion of her heart, which infused her with a sense of nurturing and fulfillment in a way the things she had been addicted to never could. The moral of the story is this: all too often, the trials and pain we encounter in life cause us to fall into addiction that temporarily masks our discomfort. Yet it is in avoiding our discomfort and emotions that we create a bigger sense of detachment from ourselves and the world around us, effectively causing the pain and discomfort to grow. And so we find ourselves in a never-ending cycle of trying to push down and hold back the unexamined emotions that grow ever larger with each cycle. It is only in the act of releasing our addictions and allowing the floodgates to open that we can find a way back to ourselves and a life of true fulfillment. Yes, I believe that sums it up. This certainly is a reflection of my journey. And I am happy to say that each day that goes by, each week that goes by, I feel more connected. I feel more alive. I feel more in touch with my baseline of happiness that I'm able to move through the world in my life with. And you know, we all have our own journey and our own timeline. As I said, not everyone is ready to face those things that addictions effectively cover up. But remember that in releasing the addictions, whatever that is for you, you allow yourself to how do I say, just to open to what's truly possible. Things that you may not have known about or been able to access otherwise. So, with that, I will say goodbye. Thank you so much for being here. I am so grateful. And I will see you on the next soul story. Mwah.